Okay, good morning, everyone. We are continuing our lecture on the topic on community immersion. This is your teacher, Dr. Beltran. So last meeting, we already started discussing the uh, introduction to community immersion. We discussed the do's and don'ts, and of course, the effective and functional quality of a community worker. And this time, I will continue elaborating on community immersion as a process and as a activity. Okay, what are the guide points before the conduct of community immersion? What is community mapping? What is needs assessment? And after that, what does the process of project proposal preparation entail? So what is a flow chart? And then what are the various parts of a project? Okay, what are the guide points before the conduct of community immersion? Of course, first of all, we have to select the area for the activity. The process must consider the community to be having the following characteristics. No? Number one, the location of the community and the clients within that community. Ideally, the community should be poor, and we usually say that a community to be qualified for community intervention must be depressed, deprived, and underprivileged. Okay, so also another requirement is that the local leaders or the leaders in the community must support the community project. So it is very difficult to enter a community wherein the leaders will not be receptive of the project. So they must be able to manifest their intention to cooperate or collaborate. Next is are resources suited to the needs identified available both both in the community and as well as the parties involved in the implementation of the projects. The partners in in implementing the project. Next is the availability of other agencies that might be willing to provide assistance. For example, food during the activities. Another thing, there should be peace and order in the community. Community immersion for students in particular is not allowed. Even for personnel, it's not advisable that we go to communities wherein there is no assurance of safety for the workers and the students. And then last in this list, this is not an all-inclusive list. It should be accessible. Mahirap namang we go to a community that cannot be reached, no? So especially in this time of the lockdowns and pandemics, we want to choose a community that is accessible to us. Okay. So what is community mapping? So community mapping is the geographic and socio-economic as well as other profiles of the community. The community needs to be familiar to the community workers and the students. So the mapping includes the identification of physical structures or landmarks, the streets, the schools, houses, church, markets, and other uh, visible and known landmarks in the community. Sometimes we would identify some beautiful places in community, even in depressed communities. So what is needs assessment? Needs assessment is the process of identifying problems, issues, and concerns of communities through the use of tools and using the participatory approach to get the best result. Participatory approach entails the participation of people in the community. So we are talking about the leaders, so nandyan yung BHW, yung mga tanod, and the SK, of course, are good focal points or resource persons. We can also interview mga leaders ng mga organized groups in the community, like mothers, therapies, etc. It is important because we need to gather information on the problems, issues, and concerns of the people in the community before we can conceive of a project of intervention. And then after identifying the needs, we need to rank order the priorities of these needs because it will be impossible for all the needs to be addressed. That's why there should be ranking. So ano yung pinakamahalagang need ng community? Yun ang uunahin, okay? If it's possible and within the means, kung merong means. As basis for immediate action. And then evaluate the current policies, programs, and expectations of the people in the community. This pertains to the views of the people on whether the community or the government satisfies the current needs that they are experiencing. So it's important that we ask questions about whether there are existing programs and whether these programs in the community meet the needs of the people. Okay? So ganon, yung needs assessment, very important. It is the basic, very basic, the first thing that you do before making an intervention. So what are the steps in conducting needs assessment? So these are just suggestions of activities that you can undertake to conduct a needs assessment. So number one, organize a working group to conduct the evaluation of the community needs. Okay, so an example of a working group is your group in NSTP or CWATS. Second, you identify the important aspects that needs consideration in the study. Take note that a needs assessment is a kind of research. It is a study of the needs. So this would include the potentials of people involved in the process. Okay. Next is determine the size and nature of the target of the study, meaning the community itself. So how many people are part of the population of the study? We are talking about the needs assessment. Okay. And so you need to target a sample, or if it's qualitative form of investigation, you can just identify the key respondents. And then Next, number 4 is to identify the basic information required for the study. So what are the most important information that you need to get from the community? So that would depend on the kind of projects that you have in mind, okay? And based on your specialization. Of course, students are taking specific courses. It will be impossible for you, for example, as nursing students, if you're a nursing student, to propose an engineering project like a renewable energy, solar establishment of a um, solar project, solar run project. No? So you would be thinking of something in line with your expertise, which is health and maybe nutrition or what. So and so in number 4, you should be identifying basic information that will more or less be aligned with your study. Okay, there is another airplane flying above us. I hope you can hear my voice. And number 5, make a random sampling of the study. That is when you're conducting a quantitative research, okay? But since it is very difficult for us to conduct a quantitative study at this point, you can just select key respondents. Key respondents are those people who can give you the necessary information about the community. Okay, and then number 6, make a questionnaire and then the pre-test. So you can just like what you have learned in research. You make a questionnaire and then validate it para siguradong walang question, walang ambiguous questions, that the questions are very clear. Number 7, finalize the questionnaire based on the result of the validation. So, yung pre-test na tinatawag dito, ito yung validation. So, pwede nyong i-test yan sa mga classmates ninyo. Next is you go and float the questionnaire. Floating the questionnaire means distribute the questionnaire for the respondents to answer. And then the retrieval means you get the answered questionnaire. But since I suggested that you conduct a qualitative study, there would be another alternative for that. And I am thinking you don't even have to go to the community itself. No, how will you do it? You conduct an online interview. Okay, an online interview may use your creativity. I would be suggesting that you can send or message the list of questions to be asked to the respondents. And then, of course, when the respondents receives the question, you can request for the respondent to video his or her answers to the questions. Okay? Sana mabait yung respondent so we can get the necessary information about the community. Of course, you have to conduct more interviews to have solid information about the community. That's my suggestion under the present condition of the pandemic, where I don't want you to be unnecessarily exposed to the virus, especially wala pa kayong vaccination. So I hope you can do that. No? So group kayo, you are a group. So if you select a community, one or two communities, because we are not requiring you to really conduct a very complicated, very concrete project. The project must be within your means. Okay. So use your creativity in how to conduct the needs assessment. You can use any other means, but first of all, you have to consider your safety. No? Do not be unnecessarily exposed to any health risk. We are talking about COVID. Napaka ano na ngayon, napaka contagious na yung Indian variant. Okay, so be very careful. And then next is to collate the information and then analyze. So once you have conducted the interview, or if you are able to uh, conduct a quantitative interview, once you get back all the accomplished questionnaire, you can tabulate, you can make a presentation, and then analyze your data. And then after you have come up with a narrative which will contain your analysis of the data on the needs of the community, you can validate, go back to the community and validate that with the community. How do you do that? You can not approach physically, but you can get in touch with the leaders, no? Si Kapitan, yung mga kagawad, o yung mga BHW, yung mga tanod, yung mga we have enumerated them. No? So you can also get in touch with maybe the DSWD working in that barangay. Okay, so these are the steps in conducting the needs assessment. The important output of this process is your narrative on the needs of the community based on the study. Okay, we had another airplane flying over us. So then after that, after identifying the needs of the locality, it is very essential that the project proposal, it will be drafted. No? So based on that needs analysis, you will have an idea of what the most immediate, most urgent need of the people in the community. That will be a good basis for you to propose a project. So a project proposal is a framework of plans and activities that are responsive to the needs as prioritized by the people and the outcomes of the study. So this is a flow chart of the process of preparing a project proposal. So after you have conducted the training needs analysis, you can think of a title, no? So, and then you have to organize who will be the main proponent of your project, who are the leaders and the members. And then you can probably think of a name for your group, no? And then you have to specify the duration, the objectives of the project, of course, the sub-project, the background, the justification, the contents, and then the methodology. I will discuss each in detail in the next slides. Okay, the title of the project must be based on the needs of the community. So example ng title. COVID-19 Vaccination Awareness Project. That's an example of a title. But the ideal title should include the local, meaning the place where it will be implemented. Okay, so you would say awareness on the COVID-19 vaccination in Barangay Babuyan, Santa Cruz, Zambales. Okay, that's a good title. It's a complete title. No? And then the next part is the rationale or description of the project. So the rationale describes the justification on why you would need to conduct such a project in the community. Okay, so for example, you would be saying, in the community there is an there is a notorious practice of throwing away garbage everywhere. The community is so dirty and it is so pangit, no? Halimbawa yan. And then what you may also include in the rationale or description is the law which shall serve as the basis for conducting such projects. So if it is an environmental project, you can cite probably the Solid Waste Management Act or barangay ordinance pertaining to that concern. Okay, that is the rationale. And then you go on to describe your project. The next part is the project objective, which refers to uh, the objectives of the project and what the project aims to achieve based on the rationale. Okay, so if it is a waste segregation project, you might want to include in your objective uh, the the attainment of a culture of waste segregation in the community. Okay, so how do you promote a culture wherein people are probably are segregating their waste properly? Okay, that would assist or help the barangay manage its waste. Okay, and then the next part is targets. So targets might include any kind of target that can be quantified. So for example, number of clients served or number of uh, clients trained. Okay, number of households where waste segregation system is established, number of people who learned how to prepare a balanced diet for their kids. And these are example of targets. They must be quantifiable, pwedeng mabilang, no? Pwedeng sukatin, okay? And then the next is the venue and the duration. So you have to specify the locale or the location of the project. And then the duration means how many days or how much time you will need to attain the objectives of the project. Okay, and then next are what are the parts of your other parts of your project, no? So you will need something on uh, methodology. So in this slide, you will see a table wherein you find 4 columns. The second column um, in, will contain the specific activity or topic or area. So if it is a training, what are the topics to be discussed, no? And then the methodology refers to the process of how to attain the needs identified. Okay, and then another section in your proposal should include the management team. So who is the leader and who are the members and what are their responsibilities. I will suggest that the table should already include these columns that would signify kung sino ang responsible sa anong activity. Okay? So, evaluate, that way, we will know who is accountable. Okay? Evaluation scheme refers to the way to get the results of the project, meaning refers to how we will measure the impact or the effect of the project. Okay, so it may be another questionnaire, and then another questionnaire that would measure, for example, count the number of